Fellas, welcome back to another episode of Monday Mondays. How y'all feeling today?
Well, I'm guessing Brylan's feeling good. Is that ice cream, bro? What is
This
that
is
over there?
banana pudding flavored ice cream from Trader Joe's, man. 101.
Yeah, you
Let's
saw
get it.
exactly. So
I love
basically,
Trader
Brylan,
Joe's.
yeah, yo, Brian. So Brylan, you don't need to get my update because we can see that you're doing perfectly fine over
You
there.
right, King. You right, King.
Yeah. Yeah. Yesterday, I'm feeling good. I mean, just yesterday, I'm feeling inspired. So just yesterday, I was at a event with one of my good friends, you know, and he was throwing an event in celebration of a recent acquisition that he did. And he got together a bunch of different people.
Hold on.
And go ahead.
I don't want to lightly skip over how you just said your friend was celebrating
Yeah,
buying a company. You know what kind of
right.
stage
Yeah,
That's a
in
big deal.
life
That's
you
a big
gotta
deal.
right.
be in?
Yeah.
You gotta be in a
Yeah, like
different kind of stage of life.
and that's what one that's one of the things that made it really inspiring. I mean, his name is Victor. I met Victor maybe when the first time I came to the Bay Area through a mutual friend. At the time he was the intern at Pandora, and that was around 2016, 2017. So we've been locked in since then as good friends, and also just good people to lean on during career stuff. Victor also worked side by side with Victor at Bird in the early days, and now he also worked at Snapchat before that. He went to now Netflix, and he's doing and building things on his own. But then also he has look, Netflix pays. Hey, and y'all don't know, Netflix pays. So you know, not to go too much into all that. By the way, did y'all see the $900,000 AI product manager for Netflix?
Yeah. I almost
You
filled
saw
out an
that?
application. I ain't even gonna lie.
That's what my girl. Yo, I said 900, bro.
I was like,
Bro,
I might have to pull out my PM books
bro,
and actually just
right.
at least go through the
What?
interview. I at least got to go through the interview.
No, but no offense. No offense.
It's distracting. It's distracting.
Netflix. What $900,000 problem are you solving over there?
It doesn't matter to the. It doesn't matter to us.
wait.
It doesn't matter to us. It doesn't matter to us.
Yo, why does it
That
even
doesn't matter
matter?
to us. That doesn't matter to
Well,
us.
first of all, hold on.
Look.
Wait, the amount of value that PM is going to give back to Netflix, honestly, that job may be worth even more than 900. Might be a low ball.
It probably is. It's probably a low ball. Brian, it's probably a low ball too, because that because they probably want somebody like you in there, and whatever you about to do is about to save them tens of millions of dollars, most likely. We don't know what it is probably, but I'm willing to bet that if Netflix hired you, you'll find out real quick. Like, oh, I see why I'm getting paid a million a year. I see why. Because they don't need too many of those people to change the whole like business. They don't need
If they
like
paying that,
100
if they
AI.
paying that much, if they paying that much for a PM, I wonder what they giving like the head of product.
Okay, so
I heard
and they do cash.
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You apply, you get the role, you got $900,000 in salary.
Yeah.
That's just salary. So that means you getting $75,000 a month. How are you?
Yeah. I'm stacking most of that because my lifestyle, I can only inflate my lifestyle so much. I'm stacking most of it, and then also creating a plan for myself to become independent of Netflix for sure. And then also, if I'm going towards that role in particular, I probably wanted to think of a bigger play as far as AI and how I can position myself into this world of AI that's going to be important. Like I would probably try to look at it like, okay, I'm going to do great work at Netflix. I want it to reflect that. I'm gonna stack my money. I'm gonna upgrade. I'm gonna upgrade. Like another, I got a nice car already, but I can't hurt. I get a nice another little upgrade.
That's
I live in a nice
Detroiting you.
place. Yeah, I get a little upgrade, but nothing crazy. Like And but I'll be looking at the bigger opportunity, which is like, yo, like if I do great work here and this AI product manager, like, and nobody's really seen this, and I do that, then now I have, a potential multi-million-dollar, maybe even billion-dollar opportunity in front of me just off of positioning. You know what I'm saying? Because
Mhm.
Netflix is the platform you want to be at. If you are an AI product manager or you think you can be that and you want to be a part of AI, oh, that's a perfect opportunity for you,
Mm.
to showcase because they got, hundreds of millions of people. So showcase that's a
Mm.
perfect opportunity for people to showcase their talent. And if that was me, but it's not me. I'm a founder. I'm very, very focused, but when I see stuff like that, I'll be like, oh, you know what? If I wasn't doing what I'm doing right now, yeah, I might look at that or things like that, but I'm a founder.
I would
And I believe
I
in
would
staying focused. I'm not gonna lie.
I would keep the same lifestyle. The only thing I would upgrade in my life is I would get a personal chef. I ain't even gonna lie. I would get a personal chef. Just
Yeah,
solve that part.
yeah,
That's one part of my life that
yeah,
I would
yeah,
upgrade the quickest the moment I
yeah,
can. So I would do that and
yeah,
everything else would stay the same. But similar to Rodney, I'm a
yeah.
founder and I'm focused too. But still, shit, I can't help but look at it. Like I can
No, well, I
look at the
looked at it
job
too. I
page,
looked at it
just
too. We
see
all looked at it.
what's the
We
qualifications,
all
what they
looked at
want,
it.
what they're
Nah,
looking for
we
here.
all looked at it. We all looked at it. That's too much. You can't just put that out, and like you
Did you
can't just put
qualify?
out. We can all
No, I
qualify
don't
based on so when I look at it. Based on when I look at it, we all qualify. Based on what?
I'm not
Based
gonna
on the text that they put, or based on like what I think.
I, I'm not gonna lie. When I looked at it, I was like, I don't know. But I could get there. I feel like my knowledge in AI probably isn't at the level that they probably expect, but I could get there. I could get there for sure.
I'm not gonna lie, Dre. You might. Who know? I don't know. I feel like Dre. You know a lot about AI. I'm not saying do it. Obviously, we both founders. We all
Yeah,
founders. So
I feel like Brylan.
But I'm
I
not
feel
gonna
like
lie.
Brylan, you would qualify real well for that, Brylan.
Yes,
Hey
I can
man,
see that.
hey
I can see
man.
Bradley probably go by, but Brian just got settled into a new position. He's trying to
Listen,
he's trying to do
I
big
don't want
things
to shake it up.
in the VC. Yeah, but they shook up. They shook up. They just shook up a lot of stuff. But yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, like I was saying, like big. I was happy for Victor. Congratulations again. Everybody that showed up was also
Victor's
at fun.
impressive.
Of
Mm.
course, in so
Vic,
many ways, and he's
We
clear
should
on
get
what
him
he
as a guest.
wants.
We should get him as a guest on here. He's a
yeah,
really good story.
Without doubt.
He's a really good storyteller too. Like
Yes,
that's what would
hundred
make him a
percent.
really good guest because he has so
Yes,
many incredible stories about his
yes,
journey, about his career,
yes, yes.
and yeah, I think he would be an incredible person to get on here when he's ready. When he's ready.
not
He'll,
the thing I
yeah,
appreciate about Victor is like he he's very intentional about how he just approaches like growth. Like I don't feel like
yeah,
he approaches it in a way and where it's like I only get one swing at bat. This better be my
mhm,
best swing. I think it's
yeah,
more incremental. Like it's more calculated. You know what I mean? Like
yes, yes,
Mm.
even to see like the
yes,
evolution of like just him as a business leader, him as a product builder, like in a short
yeah.
period of time
It's been very short. Like
is
I said,
impressive.
I've met Victor in 2016. I was a full time software engineer at that time. Victor was an intern at Pandora. And he was originally from Texas. And it's 2023 right now, and he's worked for Snap, like I said, Bird, and now Netflix. That's one of the top companies in the industry right now. And yeah, shouts to him. We definitely over here we give our flowers and stuff. And he is like Dre. I told him exactly what you said last night. He told an incredible story. He had to, and
Hmm.
that aligns with his personality. And he's gonna only do bigger things. But yeah, no, actually, Dre. So you had mentioned something before we got on, um, and I saw this noise. So like yeah, go ahead and get into that a little bit.
Yeah. So I was just I think I was on Twitter or Instagram, probably Instagram. And I saw like there was just a bunch of chaos in New York. So I'm like, what is going on here? And so
Yeah.
apparently this influencer, which I wasn't as familiar with, but my brother happens to follow him and is super familiar with his Twitch streams. So his name is Kai. And apparently he was doing a giveaway in New York. I think at not at Washington Square Park, at one of the parks in New York. I don't live in New York, so I'm not as familiar with the parks there. but at one park there, and apparently thousands of teenagers showed up. And I'm not exactly sure like what triggered the chaos, but at some point in this giveaway, it just like all hell broke loose. And so you had a bunch of teenagers running around this park, fighting each other, jumping on top of buildings and monuments, jumping on top of cars, stopping traffic, breaking windshields, just doing all type of reckless stuff in the middle of the street in busy New York, by the way. So imagine like people in traffic that stuck in traffic at a stoplight, wondering what the hell is going on while their car is being surrounded by a bunch of 17-year-olds that are just like trying to attack them for no reason. So the NYPD put out I guess an alert like number 4, like red, or I guess whatever their highest alert is, and like 1,000 NYPD officers like descended on this area and basically tried to get it under control. But it took them quite a while to get it under control. But eventually they did. I think up to like 60 people got arrested. It could be more now. And they're actually charging Kai with a couple of different charges. I don't have a list of charges in front of me right now, but they are charging him. Whether or not they drop him or not, who knows? I'm sure he'll have a good attorney who can get that drop. But right now, they're trying to hold him responsible for inciting this riot, is what they're calling it. So yeah, that's pretty much what I know.
Okay. Um, so I want to say that I also have a younger brother who watches Kai um, and has mentioned Kai before. Um, you know, um, uh, I think we are part of the generation where, we most of our generation, meaning that we're going into our early 30s. Um, uh, we see streaming and we can see that it's big. We can see that it's big. Our younger brothers and even sisters and just younger people, we can see that there's like this huge streaming culture. And and I want to say a couple of things first uh, before I get down to something more serious that I want to talk about in regards to that scenario. So, I'm not sure which episode it was on, but I definitely wanted to make it clear that I was so proud of Kai Sanat, because he shot up to being one of the top performers on Twitch. When he had, I believe it was when he did his he live streamed for like a month or something like that. And he like and then became the number one streamer on Twitch, and that's a really big deal, especially when a lot of the YouTube stars, not because I'm not saying what the reasons are, but just like, you know, seeing a young black streamer who people say is friendly, nice guy, you know, get to that pinnacle, it was huge, seeing that. And I saw a lot of inspiration, inspiring other people to try and get in there, et cetera. And it kind of reminded me of, who was that one video game guy, with the hair and stuff, esports.
Ninja, Ninja.
Yeah, like, and he's like, Kai is not doing what Ninja did, but it just reminds me of like some of the influence. Now, here's the thing now. Um, Kai has very, very like the New York thing, like is just to speak on the positive first, it's a showcase in how much influence this young man has. I believe this kid, let me see real quick. I just want to make sure before I believe okay. This kid is 21 years old from the Bronx. This kid is
Yeah.
21.
Hold on. Say it
This kid is
again.
21. This kid is
From the
21 years
Bronx.
old from the Bronx.
Like
21 years old.
it's a different world over there. Like, so
Mm,
for a kid from the Bronx to have that kind of influence in New
Mm,
York,
it's a big deal.
It's
that's a
insane.
big deal.
It's insane. It's insane. Exactly. And I'm glad you paused me just to really emphasize that. Like, I want to say, like, he is like he's a star. He's unique, and everything that comes with that. Now, I would say though that now, although I mentioned this on another podcast, like I said, the props and the flowers, etc. What I saw in New York was a very unfortunate situation. Now, there have been multiple people that have came out on Kai's behalf and spoken to his character, and him trying to do good for the community, etc. And I hear those things loud and clear, and I hear those people, and I think what they're trying to say is, don't like slam the hammer on him. He's a young kid. He has a lot of influence. He may not understand all the he's still young. Give him the opportunity to make mistakes. Don't ruin don't lock him up, etc. And obviously people have something there's credence to that concern because New York is not a place that's been known to play around. Like most people, what do you guys think when you hear the NYPD?
Serious. Like, yeah, serious. They mean business.
Nothing good.
Corruption.
Right. They don't play. They don't play. Ultimately they don't play. And so now when I saw the Kai the giveaway, I thought, yes, that was a nice thing. But let's rewind a little bit. I did start to, and this is not just Kai, although I'm going to use Kai for this example, but this is hinting at a larger streamer thing that I'm seeing or a trend that I'm seeing. But and it's about the extremeness and the absurdity of that culture. Like people already know that, for example, like YouTube inspired people to kind of do a lot of different things like pranks, etc. All these things like for a claim to fame / money or whatever the case. But the live streaming takes it to a whole nother level. In which case people are doing these things actively live while they're happening and creating these scenarios and they're almost like pointing people. It's like, hey, just like kind of like how Kim Kardashian might have a Skims thing, like, hey, pop up here, we're doing some Skims, like or whatever. Like that is crazy for a 21-year-old to have. Now, what I think though is that so one of the charges, I don't know the other charge, but Dre was right. There is two charges. One of the charges is the legal organization of people, right? Based on what I
Oh,
saw,
yeah.
based on what I saw, that is 100% true. I don't see how you escape that charge. I think that is a fact. You cannot just organize events at free
Hold up.
will whenever you want
Hold
to.
up. Hold up.
Go ahead.
Hold up.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Keyword
Go ahead.
keyword is organized.
Yes.
Organized means there's some sense, some type of order. This was out of the blue. And so I feel like he is going to have a strong case because like how can you argue or prove beyond reasonable doubt that like that was his intention?
It's not his intention, and we're not speaking to that. But the law is not about your intention, and it never has been. You know what I'm
Nobody
saying?
convicted him
Like
nobody convicted him on that charge.
no, no. This is why I'm being specific about what I'm talking about. I don't know the other charge. However, Riley, if you're suggesting that when it comes to the law and the legality of something, that your intention does matter to some extent. It can matter in a lot of cases. Criminal intent does matter. You know what I'm saying? Especially, for example, with murder. If you run somebody over your car on accident, you might have a manslaughter charge as opposed to a premeditated murder charge. We get all those things, but that does not mean that you have not committed a crime, and it does not mean that there's not a consequence. So, for example, in this scenario with Kai told people to come to this area. Kai and he told people to come to this area to congregate. Now, I'm not saying Kai needs to be held responsible for every single person's actions. I believe they need to arrest as many people that they have the proof of, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, it starts with Kai. Kai has to have some level of awareness of what you do because in that case, New York City is saying there's up to $5 million in damages. Is Kai paying that? Who's paying that? If you want to say that, okay, well, it's just his intent and we can focus on that. Okay, then what now? So do we say you get no charges? What about the $5 million in damages across whether it was, and also too, more than that, potentially because like Drake said, blocking traffic, people's actual property, what the insurance claims go up. Now insurance claims are going to go up in certain in the area like that. This is not just like there has to be consequence to that. You cannot be
So
somebody that
so
has
are you
influence.
wait. So are you suggesting that
Mhm.
he should be held responsible monetarily for those damages?
No, no, no. I'm not suggesting he should be held monetarily for those damages, but I want to point out that you could have good intentions, and then your actions could still have extreme consequences. And so if you if, and to so Kai has to have some level of consequence. He has to have some level of consequence
So
because
let's
other
answer the question.
people.
I think
Sorry.
we all agree there's some consequences there, but let's answer the question because you asked a
Mhm.
very good
I
question,
don't
which is
agree.
like, hey, there's $5 million in damages, which I didn't see that amount. I didn't see that number, which is absurd.
Yeah.
Probably even more than
Yeah.
that. So who should be
Yeah.
responsible for that? Because that is a very good question. 'Cause
Taxpayers.
that's going to be
Taxpayers.
the question.
It seems like taxpayers right now are. Right now, taxpayers and
Hmm.
also insurance companies and whatever else, those are the current people who are responsible. Right now, Kai has just been arrested and I believe let go. I don't know if he got like I
Okay.
believe he got let go. So what I'm saying is that I don't know his other charge, by the way. And I'm not saying he had bad intent. However, what I'm saying is Kai needs to grow. Kai is 21 and I get that he made a mistake. And I get that. And I believe whatever they hold him and charge him with should be something light. I do believe it should be like within reason, something light within reason. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't throw this kid away for the at like this is not like just some kid who had like some real like try to start a riot. He didn't try. That's not what he tried to do. That's clear. You know what I'm saying? However, we cannot allow like things like people like young people and adults need to understand that because if they don't, you can have other influencers just being like, hey, I'll just do this over here. I'll just do that. We can't just have people who have massive influence just say, hey, I'm just gonna do this over here, and then take no accountability about how all that plays out. Yes, individuals have their own choice, but if you're Kim Kardashian and you're popping up events and your events turn into riots, we have to look so yeah, we
Look, all
gotta
I'm saying is
get all
if you
other
gonna
people.
hold Kai accountable, hold Trump accountable too.
Yeah,
Trump needs to be accountable
I do.
because he is
No, of
he
course,
he
of
essentially
course,
he essentially did the
of
same thing.
course,
So
of course,
hold
of
him
course, of
hold it
course.
across the board.
Well, here's the thing.
So so I
I believe he's indicted though. I believe it took a while, but I feel like Trump is. I believe he's
yeah,
getting
he is.
indicted on those charges. So
Yeah, indicted. Yeah,
like
he
I
is. He
agree with
is.
that. Yeah,
But there's
I agree
still
with
no.
that.
But an indictment don't
But
necessarily translate to like actual
I
punishment.
hear
But
you.
look,
I hear you.
I
I
think
hear you.
I think we all
Yeah.
agree. Like
One more thing.
there needs to be
One more
accountability on that
thing.
point.
One more
I
thing.
personally don't
One more
believe.
thing. One more thing.
Go-
Bro, Riley, we can get to that real quick, Riley. But one more thing I want to say. I want to speak to the absurdity of streaming. Now, I just before this event with New York and Kai, I actually started becoming concerned with Kai a little bit, and let me tell you why. Because I think it was July fireworks or whatever, and he had this video go viral where he had like this RPG like fireworks inside of his mansion. He's just blowing them up and or like on live, right? And he's causing fires or whatever and they were able to fix it or whatever. But I'm like, to me, that suggested that this kid might not be realizing that he is doing things that are absurd and also like because he's being trained by he's 21. He's 21 from the Bronx. The platform is influencing him in a lot of ways. I started getting concerned for Kai when I seen him blowing up rockets inside of his house. Like, so I was speaking not just for Takai, but also to the streaming culture. Are we headed to a level where it's like people are, cause that gets attention, like that gets attention, that gets attention, people doing crazier stuff on live. And I don't want to put it all on Kai, but I just want to say that before the New York stuff, I started getting concerned for Kai because it seemed like what he was basically doing, it was extreme. He's having fun, but it was the extremity of it. And I'm like, okay, you could cause a fire. Well, you can't put it out. And now your neighbor's house has a fire. You started it's a little bit more responsibility. I'm not saying this 21-year-old needs to think like have that full blown responsibility, but Brown, I cannot get behind no accountability because he needs to understand that, hey, just think a little bit, just maybe have a team to help you or think a little bit more like, yeah, you could do the good thing. You can do the good thing, but you don't want to be the person that's held accountable. Just like even with Travis Scott. Travis Scott, like like he had his situation, and ultimately they looked at Travis Scott. They said, "Yo, you are accountable." Now, mind you, he had his reasons why he may not have heard it and what was going on and all that stuff in that Astro world, but it didn't change the fact that Travis Scott had to hold some level of accountability. Now, is he in jail? No, but Travis Scott he had to take accountability. And Dre, you said we all agree. Brian's saying that we don't. So that's so Brian, you can go ahead on that part. But
Yeah, I'm really happy that you brought up the Travis Scott because I was gonna definitely make that comparison between Kai and Travis Scott. I would even go a few years earlier to I think it was 2018 when Travis Scott had got he had got arrested for inciting a riot. I think it was in Arkansas, and then I think a few years before that, he actually got arrested for inciting a riot over here at Lollapalooza. And so, like, so when we were talking about Kai, that's literally what popped up into my head. But even going back to Travis Scott and Astroworld, were charges brought up? Yes. But was the case won? No. And I think this is going to be a similar scenario where you might see charges brought up, but
it's different.
there's no evidence. There's no evidence of
It's
him organizing people to incite a riot. That's going to be very hard to prove.
How's it? No. You don't. Oh, no. I don't know if the charges inside. I don't know if no.
I'm pretty
it was
sure
a
that's
legal
one of the-
assembly. No, it might
I'm
be one of
pretty
the
sure
charges.
one of the charges was inciting a riot.
I'm speaking to the illegal assembly one. Just to be clear, I'm not speaking to inciting a riot.
So
Based on
let me
my
ask you
understanding,
this.
a
Let me ask you
legal
this.
assembly, you're not just allowed to just you're not just allowed to have thousands of people show up wherever you want and tell like anywhere like you're not just allowed to do that.
So the George Floyd protests.
Yeah.
The George Floyd protests. They destroyed many cities. Many cities. Who
Yeah.
was responsible? Who are you holding responsible for that?
They held the individuals. They held the individuals in that case because there's nobody to point to. There's no one person.
But this is
there's no one person. And not the same.
If you
First
look
of all,
at the physical, if you look at the physical event,
yo,
those riots
telling me
and those
a legal
protests look the same. And so what I'm saying is the same way that those protests were handled and you went after the individuals who were causing trouble, I think that is what is fair when it comes to this Kai situation. Go after the individuals that were causing trouble. It's not, yes, did he call these people, to this area? Cool.
Yeah.
You can't with certainty say
Mm-hmm.
you knew that all these people were going to come. Like, you just can't. And the other thing too is like, he's not on camera doing any of that stupid shit. And so I think this is a very unfortunate situation. You happen to have a person here with a very interesting background where it's going to allow you to tell a very interesting story. But
I just want to say something important though.
Yeah.
Something that's important to say, and I'm sorry to interrupt, is that you I wanted to make sure with these charges, and maybe it's still incorrect, but I'm going based off of what Google is saying, but also what Perplexity is saying. The legal assembly is generally speaking going to require some malice or bad intent. However, that's not just because there's an absence of intent does not make it legal. So that word could be sticky. And by the way, I'm not like I want to make it clear. I do not think that I don't even know if I even would say Kai needs to go to prison or jail. I don't even know if I would even say that. But it has to be something because I'm also worried about Kai as a young man. He's 21. It's almost like even the way with Ja. I think that we may not see that these younger people are looking at these platforms and not fully it's like we've given younger people the access to like these superpowers that like if we had at 21, like we would be doing some real dumb stuff. But it doesn't mean that we can't say, hey, hold on, you can't move like that, bro. Like we got like something like, and granted, like sometimes people course correct automatically. Like maybe Kai feels bad enough and he course corrects by himself. The thing is though, it can be concerning to the public. Like, cause what do you tell the public that is concerned in New York? And I'm seeing all these tweets about people feeling scared and like so like people got to speak to that. People have to speak to that, and maybe he gives them an apology, or whatever. That's fine too. Like even if he came out and gave an apology to New York or whatever, that's fine too. But like just being, but definitely not on Jaw stuff because Jaw came out and gave an apology too, and then we saw Jaw went right back. You know what I'm saying? But like I'm all, like Brian and I don't. I just want us to make sure that accountability is important, not because we don't want to just like be harsh on them, but because I think the young man needs to understand his position and he has superpowers in the palm of his hand. And I'm concerned that left unchecked and left like with no consequence. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that he's had an RPG in his house blowing up, like shit is catching on fire. You're telling me that's safe? Like, I'm just saying, bro. There are things that are being influenced and he's a young man getting all of this validation for it. And so even after this, he's going to be more famous. Dre said he didn't even know who Kai was. So even after this, so if he gets no consequences and also he's more famous, it's easy to see how a young man's mind may not fully see how serious that is.
That's fair, but I mean, I like to play a good devil's advocate.
He's just a young man. I'm worried about him. I'm worried about him.
Yeah, it's fair.
Because what if he also got hurt too? What if he also got hurt too? A lot of people got hurt too. People got hurt too. He could have also got hurt too. So he does like maybe the event is enough. Hopefully it's enough.
But I'm gonna keep it a stack though. Like, I think there's a case to be made that like, yeah, we can sit over here and say, well, what he should do or what he should not be doing. But we don't live in that nigga's shoes, if we being honest. Like that nigga living a whole different lifestyle. That nigga, like you got to really think about it. Compared to the lifestyle we're living, his perspective is different. I know, but who's to say our perspective, based off the position we sitting at, would be the right one to move in that and move in his shoes? We don't know.
That's what I'm saying, though. You're saying you're not saying nothing I didn't say because I don't. First of all, I don't have the superpowers that Kai has. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that I don't have the super. I don't have Jaw's influence. I don't have these young guys. However, yeah, I am concerned about Jaw if Jaw is constantly getting into gun situations and flaunching guns, etc. Even going back and apologizing, seeing how big he's almost like guaranteed to be a billionaire if he just, could just. I know, like, I'm actually saying I don't understand that. I'm actually having empathy because I don't know. I don't know what it's like. So I'm actually going as far as saying, hey, we're giving these kids superpowers. Like, we're giving these kids superpowers. I don't even know what that's like. We didn't have those when we were 21. So I'm actually saying exactly what you're saying. So I want that to be clear. Like, I don't know that. I don't know what it's like to be 21 and have superpowers in the palm of my hand, or whenever I turn on the camera, there's a million people watching, or I can tell 1,000 people to go to a location. I don't know that, especially not being a kid. So now, because I don't know, now I'm just concerned, and I don't have anything to say about what he should or should not do. However, I will be concerned about a young man who just of 2 weeks before this incident, I was saying, or 3 weeks before this incident, I was saying, hey, yo, it looks like he's getting a little extreme. Like it looks like, like I get it, we're having fun and whatnot, but I'm saying like, like, you got a million people watching you, blow up your house. Like I'm just coming in with a little bit of reason. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm just saying like, hey, that may not be a good thing to do. And also make sure that you're doing things because you're really having fun. Not just like, whatever will get me, like, you know what I'm saying? And it's easy for young people to get into that. So like, I feel like I'm not telling, like, maybe I'm wrong. Am I looking at it the wrong way?
Would you say the same about Mr. Beast?
If Mr. Beast, yeah. If Mr. Beast did the exact same thing, yeah, because I believe, yes. Why not? Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I? Why would I not say the same thing
Why
about Mr.
haven't
Beast?
you? Why
Because
haven't you
because
though?
because wh- because there's not a New York incident. What are you talking about? What are you talking
Do you
about?
think
What is Mr. Like?
are you saying there's similarities in terms of assembling massive
Yes.
groups of people? Because Mr. Beast has
Matt,
definitely
Matt,
done
Matt.
that for sure.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm
no. So
in terms of
okay, sure,
massive.
sure. If you right,
Hold on
exactly.
a second. Hold on a second. Hold on. Go ahead, Braylon. Let him
Nah,
get his
that
whole thought out.
nah, that's basically what I'm saying. Like in terms of they both there's a lot of similarities, both massive,
Yes,
crowds.
yes,
I think the other
yes,
thing too is
yes.
like, as you
If
said, extremes.
it,
Mr.
yes,
Beast goes to the
I
extreme
do think
too.
yes.
It's just
I
it looked
believe Mr.
different.
Beast. No, but here's the thing though. I have okay. If you're asking me, do I believe Mr. Beast is extreme? Yes, I believe that, and I believe he's getting a lot of success. And I believe there's a ultimate culture that's going towards extremity. Now, here's the thing. I would be saying if Mr. Beast had an event that just happened like what Kai's event, I would be forced to say the exact same thing. Why would I not say the same thing? That's what I'm asking from you. Why would I personally say something different about Mr. Beast? Like, because right now, to my knowledge, unless you guys have other information, I'm willing to be updated on the information. But to my knowledge, Mr. Beast's events have not caused millions of dollars in damage and then also physical violence, but also destruction of property, to my knowledge. So if that has happened, I take like I want to say Mr. Beast is also included in this as well. But if that to my knowledge, it has not happened. So if that does happen with Mr. Beast, yeah, I'm thinking, yes, you do extreme content. And Mr. Beast, yes, take some more time to think about making sure that it goes well. You know what I'm saying? Like, and sometimes it's out of control still, and that happens. Astro, as an example, went out of control. Well, that's also why they had insurance on those type of events. So look, like I get all that. Like, I'm just saying, why would I be saying that about Mr. Beast if there's nothing if nothing I'm obviously speaking about this with Kai. I had my personal opinions about Kai. You guys didn't know about it. And it wasn't until this happened, I'm like, oh man, it makes me feel like, dang, I saw him getting more extreme. And then this happens, and it's almost like it confirms in my mind. And maybe I'm just like, that's just my view. But yeah, Mr. Beast had a bad event. I would like, it would only be like, it'd be unfair. Like, why would I not say the same thing about Mr. Beast? Like, why would I not? I don't understand the question. Why would I not say the same thing about Mr. Beast if if a riot started in no matter what city it was? Why would I not say the same thing?
I was just saying they both do some extreme stuff. It just looked different. That's
Yeah,
it.
but why would I not say the same thing? Yeah, I know it looks different, but if it was an event that just happened, why would my commentary change? 'Cause it's not based on how it looks. It was based on what happened. Like if Mr. Beast had a bad a bad event, like why would I change that? Like why would I change that? Like because even because
I
Dre
I
just said like
I
keep the same
guess
energy with Trump. Dre just said keep the same energy with Trump. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. Like he's getting charged right now, and I think that's what needs to be happening. Trump, you can't do that. So I'm across the board consistent. So that's why I was trying to understand from you, like why would I change it? Like if something bad happened, yeah, what Trump did that was bad. Yeah, get charged for that, and he's getting charged right now. I don't know if he'll get convicted like Dre's point, but
I got thoughts, but I don't know if on air is for a place for me to say them. Yeah,
political thoughts,
I got I
or like ethnicity, race conversation,
no.
or what?
I'm gonna keep it a stack. I mean, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, and we can get to the next topic. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, this whole Trump stuff is laughable to a certain extent because that my same view that I have around Kai of
hmm
yes, I may have said something, but there is no way you could have thought like to 100% certainty known that's what the outcome was going to be. There's no way.
Oh,
There's
so
no
you feel like
way.
Trump? You feel
So
like
so
Trump
so
shouldn't
let me
face no
ask you.
charges?
So let
Trump
me ask you this.
Trump shouldn't either.
Let me ask you this, Brylan. I guess then, just I guess morally or ethically, what do you think is the proper way to navigate those scenarios when you do have a person that has a massive microphone and massive influence and has the ability to emotionally move people at a large scale, right? If you say, you know what, you can't tell anybody's intent, which, yeah, I agree with you. Like, you definitely don't know how something's gonna turn out. None of us can read the future, right? None of us are forcing anybody's hand in anything. But I guess so. Where is there any responsibility, I guess, in the person who holds that position and incites this type of behavior from the public? Like, I guess, who does anybody hold any responsibility for that in your eyes?
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's all about incentives. So if the person, Kai or Trump, they're incentivized to leverage their influence to attract a large audience. I don't think you try to solve the problem by going after them. I think you hurt what they want. They want fans, they want audiences. And I think the way you go about doing that is by punishing the people that are actually doing the crime stuff. So breaking into the Capitol, or say, for example, like in this case, like destroying property and things of that. Punish them, and then like there can be proactive measures taken to know, like, okay, this situation is going to happen. Like, this is how we're going to treat this situation, right? Like there's been times in history, think about it, where the police or whatever have shown up to, say, for example, like a Black Panthers, picnic or something, or like there's been a numerous amount of times where they've done that. Why could they not do that here? Just like, if you're telling me he put out a tweet, that's where he's going to be, and most of the time, the details in where they're telling people to organize are very public and explicit. The police can do certain things to deter those people who want to attend those events. Because now, if I like that person does not want to
Mhm.
go to that event, that the person, hey, Trump or Kai gonna stop doing that because it ain't getting the people.
Mm.
And so that's how you saw that. That's how I'll go about it.
All right. Interesting. All right, let's move on.
Yeah,
Next topic.
yeah,
WorldCoin. Let's talk about
crazy,
WorldCoin real quick.
crazy.
So, Bradley, you might be more familiar with this. I feel like we talked about
Yeah, yeah.
WorldCoin a long time ago before it dropped. I think I want to say a couple months ago when they raised some money. Don't quote me, but it was like 100 million or something crazy like that. 70 million maybe they raised. And that was the first time I had actually heard about them. And I looked into it, and essentially, I mean, I might be butchering this, so maybe you could give a much better explanation. But their whole thesis is that because of AI, it is going to be difficult to determine who's human and who's not human. Essentially, when you are trying to conduct, I'm gonna use the word commerce online, right? When you're trying to conduct commerce online in the future, the way we're headed, AI and bots and all this other, advanced technology is going to be also on the internet doing things automatically without our instructions or whatever. And it's going to be difficult to tell who's human and who's not. And so their way of solving that is using some like iris scanner or retina scanner, some type of like eye scanner, because apparently your eye is like the most unique characteristics, one of the most unique characteristics that we have as humans. So you can identify who a person is. And then they're trying to tie it together with something with crypto, which I don't understand that piece. So maybe you can explain. Is that kind of like the gist, or I don't know, what fill in the gaps where I might be missing?
Nah, that 100% is kind of the gist. And so really, whether I haven't dove super deep in terms of like seeing exactly how they're trying to plug in with crypto, but their big thing is they eventually see this being something that exists on the blockchain, and it's
Mm,
open. Um and yeah, I think that's very important. And the other thing too that's really big about this, actually two more things. The first one is, this is another crypto thing, but like how they're thinking about cyber attacks. Like their whole belief is that like cyber attacks are going to increase. And so for people that don't know what a cyber attack is, essentially think of it as, if you got these crypto protocols or these networks that are supposed to be decentralized and owned by the community. If one or more groups of individuals gain an unproportional amount of power or control over the network, they can easily sway what happens with that network, right? And so it gets at, like, crypto is all about, like, quote unquote fairness, right? Um, and so their whole thing, that's they have a unique way of solving that. And then the other thing too that I think is very fascinating is how this all applies to just like the whole idea of misinformation increasing, as we move towards the AI world. And so for them to be doing this, I think it's pretty dope, because it's like they're capturing your eye. For most people don't know that your eye, the blood vessels in your eye, are the most unique piece of information like on your body outside of like your genome. Like, they're more specific and more unique than your fingerprint. Like, that's how valuable
Mm.
they're like a piece of information they're getting, to really like, they're getting that specific. Like, so there's some really tough engineering happening behind just building that kind of device to really prove that, like, nah, this is really one-to-one person. Like, and so,
I
yeah,
think I think the biggest thing that we left out though is who's behind this.
unpack that,
I don't think
unpack
we
that play,
mentioned who's
man.
behind it, because I think that's
Yeah.
the biggest, like, oh, gotcha thing out there, which
Right.
is my man's over at OpenAI, Sam Altman,
But
is the founder. But there's another founder too. I'm not as familiar with
yeah,
his co-founder. Brownlee, you might know
I
more about him. I don't know his background.
nah, I had to look homie up. So his name is Alex Blania. So he's actually the CEO over there, but he was the other co-founder. Yeah, he was actually a researcher over at Caltech. Over there, studying deep learning and quantum systems. And Sam, yeah, I guess they had a relationship, and they had connected. But yeah, his background is very, very interesting. Like, he wasn't at like a traditional Stripe or Meta or any of those
Mhm.
companies you think, he might have pulled brilliant talent from. Like, he went and got a researcher,
Hmm.
like
As
somebody
a
that was in
CEO.
academia. Yeah. Like, and I think that's very telling in the case of, like, he's basically building an academic institution at OpenAI. They do AI research and they apply it. So
Hmm.
it's very interesting to see how Sam is viewing the world and viewing people, and where talent is going to accumulate. That was one of the interesting things I took away from that pick.
Yeah. It's an important piece that Sam is involved in this, especially with his obviously him being tied with uh, OpenAI and the founding of that. Um, One thing that I think is important to point out is that it seems like there has been already 1 million people who have across the, I don't know which regions, but it's been 1 million people who have done it so far. And just a little bit of extra detail. I think you get $50 in the coin of this coin to start, and
Hmm.
um, it's clear to me what they're trying to do as far as identity and proof of humanness. What maybe is a little bit unclear to me is that of some of the things that people have mentioned is like UBI and like that concept being tied to this, etc. And then even like the value of the coin. That's it's pretty confusing to me as it stands right now, because maybe because I'm just not privy to or fully connecting all the dots on where the future is headed. Not understanding why there would be a value associated, or if you're just getting paid. Where if your identity is separate from the crypto that you're getting paid, like I guess I'm not understanding exactly what the world coin represents for a person. As far as value too, because does that mean everybody just has one world coin? 'Cause that's different than, for example, like Bitcoin and all the other cryptocurrencies. Like, um, do you yeah, I guess like some of those details are still questions in my mind. But I did want to highlight that it's been it's attracted a lot of people, like you guys mentioned. I think Dre mentioned this before we got on, that it's also in LA, or just today. I think
Hmm.
it just came to LA. which is I'll just tell y'all right now, I'm gonna do it. Uh, but I don't want to wait like in a long line, so I hope it's not like a lot of people. You feel me? So I'm not trying to do that. But if I stroll by and I see it's not that bad, I'll probably pop in. It's a part of. I feel like this is a part of my job though. So you know how that
Mm.
goes.
Why you gonna go do it?
Like I said, man, it's a part of my job. I mean, we're in the business of
You giving up your eye though.
we're in the business. Well, here's the thing. If it's much easier for me to create solutions for threats while I'm also under threat, right? So like if I go like if I go up
Rodney,
to like get
do you hear
no,
yourself?
seriously. No, I'm
You
serious
really
though.
gonna
Like
put
I'm
yourself in
serious.
harm's way.
No. You're missing the point though. You're missing the point though. Um, uh, first of all, one, I don't believe that right now I'm putting myself in harm's way. I don't believe that right now based on what I know. It's possible. So
You
I'm
trust their
skeptical.
technology?
Uh, yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Because let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you a couple of things. One, I'm aware that two people have access to my eye information, Clear, and then also Apple, right? Um, I'm also in the world of security, and I think that almost all data at some point will have some unintended access, whether it's from the cloud unintended access and or through a physical device, for example, a stolen scenario. And I do believe that tools around like the hackers will make it easy. Like I believe our biometric data is not as sacred as like it's sacred in the sense of it's not going to change um like it's very accurate, but like essentially though I don't think that
It's
it
not
will
safe.
be I just don't think it will be like how do I put this, I guess it's a unique identifier, but usually unique identifiers change over time as technology evolves. So like for example just like DNA or even like fingerprints or the way they scan fingerprints now, or even like Amazon is like doing like the palm, I don't know, like I saw this at Amazon, sorry,
I
not
saw it
Amazon,
too.
Whole Foods. Yeah, but,
Yeah.
there was a bigger announcement about it, but I've used it for the first time a couple months ago where you could pay with your palm and whatnot, and I think that people need to understand a few things is that I don't think these things are as precious as we think, in the sense of, like, for example, right now, your eyes are very good, unique ID, I do believe that, but, I'm not gonna lie, if I think long in about the future, I think the IDs will change just as they have for as long as technology has been around. So I think it's probably like one of the best ones right now. But for example, if I think about the fact, like if I assume that cameras are going to get a lot better, and then also the cost of cameras go down, and the size of cameras can also be smaller, I think that you will find that people will be like, especially hackers first, probably, will find ways to take natural public footage, that's high resolution and use certain tools to get really close as if you are, like, standing in front of
Mm.
an orb. So
I I
so
I
basically what I'm
I
saying
I I
is
see what you mean.
yeah, exactly. So essentially, like, there's yeah, it's like, not fighting it, I'm just kinda going with, I'm going with
Mm.
it and also,
That's a really good
along the
that's
way.
a really good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point to bring up that honestly I hadn't considered, but I'm not surprised that you thought
I
about that
hadn't
'cause
either. Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, Rodney, but a couple years ago, you and I had a conversation similar to this.
Mhm,
I think
mhm.
when you were first kinda like spinning up Safe, you had this
Yeah.
perspective of like every
Mhm,
consumer, everybody is gonna have like a set of private
mhm.
keys, like
Yes.
something that's uniquely tied to them. Like that was kinda
Yes.
like the starting point that you started from. And then
Absolutely.
and then fast forward, we saw Apple launch like the passkey stuff. Like they're trying to do
Yes.
that as well. Google got their
Mhm.
stuff going on. Then we see what's going on with WorldCoin. But it's still going
Yes.
back to that same conversation that we had. I don't know if you remember that. That was like
Yeah,
4 years ago.
yeah.
But
I do remember, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
You know
I
who
think
would kill crypto? Like who would
who
kill a project like this?
who?
Apple.
Oh
Apple.
yeah.
Apple has
Of
all the
course.
perfect touch points to really tell a
We should
crazy
assume Apple's
crypto
already working
narrative.
on it.
Mm,
We
yeah.
should assume that they're working on it.
I
But
mean,
were you saying something, Dre?
basically, yeah. I was just gonna say, I think this technology in general. To you said like somebody can create a device where you can see somebody's eye. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah,
I hadn't thought about that at
like
all. But I'm like, man, he's
Like,
right.
I'm not gonna lie. I was like, nah, Rodney talking crazy right now. Like
I was like, yeah,
yeah,
he's right.
I
yeah,
was like,
But
that's
I
a
yeah,
agree.
crazy mind.
But even back then, when you had
yeah,
told me like, all right, everybody needs to have these private
mhm,
keys at first, I couldn't understand.
mhm,
I got it
yeah,
conceptually, I understood it,
yeah,
but I was like,
Mhm.
yeah,
my mind still wasn't there. But now
mhm,
seeing where AI is, but see, I didn't have all the, I didn't see where
yeah,
AI is right now. But seeing where AI is now, I'm
yeah,
like, oh shit, we definitely
mhm,
need this. And now you got me
yeah,
even thinking, even now, like, damn, what's more secure than the eye? Shit, like, what is it?
yeah, yeah.
Is there any
There's
level of
levels.
security? Will we ever be
Yeah.
secure online, or will we always
Uh,
be open and
it,
vulnerable
it's
online
it's
forever?
it's always it's gonna evolve. It's always gonna evolve. Like it's always gonna evolve. That's the truth of it. And safe. Our huge big vision is just you know protecting people like in a way where they don't have to be inconvenienced, but also giving people the tools to protect themselves. 'Cause I think that's gonna be a big part of it. Like yeah, you can call the police, but also I think you should have something at home to make sure that like in the time which the police could come or whatever, et cetera. I
Hmm.
think that's how we look at like the whole the world, the world, and in regards to like I I realized recently something maybe within like the last few weeks as I've been dialing my story, and this is actually going to segue into the fundraising stuff that we want to talk about, but um, part of my one tidbit, I'll just read it word for word out of my out of one of the short. This actually came out of uh. So when you do an investment, I'm sorry, when a company invests in you, usually they write a memo on the company they invest in,
Yeah,
and I always
yeah.
I always ask like for those memos because I want to see what they bring the team. Like, I'm always curious to see how people that I've talked to or successfully pitched are now framing it to their team. And One of the things that was in that I took from a memo that a VC wrote was uh let me see if I just want to get it. I just want to read it word for word to be honest. But excuse me, sorry guys. Um okay. So Rodney was one of the earliest engineers at Bird and is a lifelong cybersecurity expert who first gained exposure so to monetize to monetizing software by generating bots at age 13 via selling bots for online games. Right now, let me drill in that a little bit more for like to so you guys understand why that's important to me now, and I'm seeing why, for example, that conversation we had 4 years ago was more clear to me, and some of the things that's going on right now, that I feel like like I don't know how to describe it, but essentially, my job as a 13-year-old kid was to create like, and here's what I'll start with. My intention. My intention started with, look, I want to level up in this game, RuneScape, while I'm at school. I don't want to play that much. I really don't like playing this. But there was a social aspect to it because some of my friends were playing it. So I was like, I just want to level up. Like, I don't care. Um, and uh, and and I made a bot. And the point of the bots is that they do human things. Like they do things that we don't want to do, to automate it or whatever, right? But here's the thing though, that job at 14, 15 years old became much more complicated because the amount of bots we were selling ended up creating the problems that we see right now on social media 10 years later. And so I'm going to parallel this. So look, um, we ended up our jobs started to become, not only do you have to do the task that is done well, but you also need to seem to be a human. So I remember talking in these rooms at 13, 14 years, 15 years old on Skype back. That's what we used back then. Um, about neural networks and stuff like that. Things that I know now that are AI. And essentially we created, for example, if you were, for example, let's say you were chopping wood all day, right? The games got smart enough to realize that, like, look, you normal people don't chop wood for 10 hours. You know what I'm saying? So we had to build in things that made people seem real, even though they weren't, right? So, and on other things too, for example, people will try to talk to you because it's a social game, right? And so if you're like just fighting something, you're just doing the same thing over and over again, and you're not saying anything, people are going to report you because why? They think you're a bot. They don't think you're real, right? And so we had simple, basic ways where we could read the chat and then determine maybe a good response so that it looked like we were like that somebody was present, just so we can get people off the bat. So basically, what I'm saying is that I created my first part of my experience in coding while making money was creating bots, things that weren't real, pretending to be real, and doing automated tasks online for games. Now, fast forward to now, social media is the video game now. People don't see it that way, but it's very clear to me. It's obvious to me. The same thing that I was doing as a kid is happening right now with people's real lives, which are gamified by social media. And so and that's across everything. It's Gmail now, everything. So to me, it's only evident that the bot problem is going to accelerate with AI to a extreme level. And every other people like how I was when I was a kid are going to be creating every possible way to pretend to look like real um because of the incentive, and
What are,
and
what are
and
what are the consequences of that problem from your
Hmm.
perspective, Rodney?
and in what way? Like consequences to who
When
or what?
like
Like what way?
bot if bots, yeah, let's
Mhm.
assume bots do exponentially increase. The
Okay,
consequences
so
of that from a
yeah,
social media perspective, an economic
yeah,
perspective, like,
yeah.
yeah, kind of break
Mhm.
it down. I'm curious.
I'll give you a couple things, and I'll start with concrete anecdotal experiences, and then I'll maybe try to expand out a little bit bigger. But for example, maybe just like last week, I asked my girlfriend, like, "Are you like receiving like random iMessages, like from like
Mm.
just random like spam iMessages?" Like, I just asked her.
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, yeah, I am." Mind you, had I never asked her that, she would have never brought it up because most of us are just living our lives, our phones or whatever, dealing with our inboxes or whatever messages, etc. But I know, but then when I got that answer, I was like, "Oh, okay, well, I'm receiving that too." And for me, I got the deeper insight though. The deeper insight is that I know that Apple just allow businesses, for example, to use things like iMessage and so that they can send iMessages in the iMessage format, right? So they can seem like a lot more legit, all these other things, right? So I'm like, oh, I see what's going on there. People have found out a way to somehow send iMessages on, through the system that Apple is just now rolling out. That's one example. Another example would be for like your inbox, right? I'm willing to bet most of our inboxes have more spam than they had prior, especially Google for some reason. I think that
Mhm.
a lot of people can relate to the fact that they can have reported something um, and they'll get the same email again. And it's like, unless you block it, and they're still getting these. And so why is that happening? Because it's becoming cheaper and easier to one, host these bots, but then two, create the content that the bots are you can almost damn near fully automate the whole process. And that's what I didn't understand as a kid. The bots that we were making, I used to make them for the player like me that just wants to like to every now and then just, hey, just put the bot on. I had no idea there was a bigger picture that was going on where people were having, for example, virtual machines and they would run 10 bots or 100 bots and they would just have them running all day because there was a business associated. There was something that they were getting. In that case, I think people were trading certain items or they're like selling the accounts because as they get to a certain level, the worth a certain amount, people will just buy the account from you, etc. So the incentives might be different, but the mechanics are the same here. And so I'm just seeing that and so those were like my personal anecdotes. Maybe at the larger scale, that's why you I mean, for example, that's why you see the Elon with the blue check thing and Meta with the blue check thing and the ID verification and stuff like that. Like because I'm willing to bet they're just seeing a lot more spam. They're seeing a lot more spam, and it's very difficult. It's not easy. It's not cheap. There's no cheap way to do it. And then also, when you do find a way to kind of like detect something, people just make better systems, like because there's a business
Mhm.
in it. and so it's really hard. It's really hard, and in my case with the boss when I was younger, that was they had to literally sue us, and it got ruled in that particular case that you can make bots for video games in those type of video games, but you can't sell them. They can only be free. The legal part is profiting off of, and that was case closed in that scenario. But think about how desperate they had to be before they got to the point where they're putting a lawsuit on this random startup that was just, making these bots for video games, right? So I'm
Was that
when
the
I was
was
thinking
that the publisher that
yeah,
sued?
it's public. Yeah, yeah,
The publisher?
yeah, yeah. This is a public case. You can look up if anybody's interested. Um, there is if you look up Jagex and Impulse Software, Jagex versus Impulse Software, you'll see there is a lawsuit. In which case, Impulse Software was the startup out like that I was when I was working at when I was younger. Jagex is the one that owned the video game, their game studio, I think. And they own
Mm.
multiple games, but one of the and a funny story actually. One of my mentors and investors he was an investor in Jagex. So I ended
Oh,
up at 23, I ended up meeting a guy and it was a funny story, But anyways, yeah, that's a public
that's still
case,
wild.
and that was
That's still
yeah.
wild to me that you was 14, 14,
Mhm.
working with a startup that had funding and everything, doing building these bots.
That's
That
wild.
essentially, like you said, has led to it was much more than just the game. It wasn't really about the
Mhm.
game. That's what you were focused on. That's what
Yeah.
your objective
Yeah.
was as a 14-year-old
Yes.
in your mindset.
Yes.
You just focus on the
Yes.
game. But it's
Yes.
interesting now looking back on it and zooming out, like, you're right.
Mhm.
You were working on a much bigger problem that
Yeah.
now the whole industry is like throwing billions of
Yes.
dollars at
Yes.
trying to solve. And back
Yeah.
then, it wasn't that like nobody else was really doing
Yes.
that like that. Like there weren't these
Yes.
automated bots in this way, and definitely, obviously, the
Yes.
AI and the sophistication of the intelligence wasn't there. And so, yeah,
Yes.
that's a crazy story, man. I love hearing that story.
Yeah.
Even though I've heard it so many times,
The
I love continuing to
yeah.
hear it because it's like it's just so
Yeah.
inspiring.
Let me add another layer to that too. Is that what people don't realize, and that's why also the way I look at social media, I've noticed is different than other people. Because in my mind, it is no different than the game I played when I was, 12, 13 years old. And so with that perspective, I see that people generally speaking trust social media to be a symbol of some level of social interactions. Not realizing how distant a lot of people are from it. It's nothing to them. They're like, especially the people who have a lot to gain from it. It's almost like it's not real. Like they're
Mm.
bird's eye away from it. And they're not like they're almost they're like crows. It's like, saying like while you have individuals, and that's why also too, I think I felt like people were upset about, for example, like the blue check and stuff like that originally, because I think that like they take that stuff serious. They take social media serious, not really realizing that they have turned your social life into some type of game and that you don't even fully know the rules of it. So like, and so people don't often think about that because they just get on it and it's like everybody on it, we all on it. Da, da. They don't really understand that this is a game that Zuck curated or a game that Snap created. They created a gamified version of an aspect of your social life, and if you don't look at it that way, it's very it's dangerous, especially with all these bosses fake content, because you're coming on the game as an individual player. And so, for example, if you see someone before Elon, someone with a blue check, you just assume that it had more to do with like just objective stuff. Like you would just you make assumptions as somebody coming into it. You're thinking everybody's playing it for the same reasons or da da da. No, this is literally a like a virtual game, and you have to like it's good for people to separate that, and because they've turned it. You can't like it's different. I don't know how to describe
Hmm.
it, but yeah, I do think my previous experience lets me look at it differently. Yeah, I look at it differently. I look
Hmm.
at it differently.
Since we're on the topic of security, one thing I have been thinking about recently, I have a bunch of connected devices around my house. Like I have an outdoor
Yeah.
camera, I have a doorbell, I
Mhm.
have like
Mhm.
Google Homes in my house, like they have speakers,
Yeah.
cameras on it.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of stuff. And I'm just like, I would pay to just like be able to monitor all my devices and just know if somebody has hacked my shit. Because I'm like,
Mhm.
yo, what if somebody is like hacking my I saw something on, I think it was like a 2020 episode or something a long time ago about
Yeah.
this hacker that was hacking into these Nest cameras, but it was doing it to parents and like hacking into like kid cameras and like watching people's kids and stuff like that. And of course, you don't know. You have a camera up, you don't know who watching your camera. You assume, hey, nobody's watching my camera but me. But that's clearly not the case. Like people can
Yeah.
access these camera feeds, people can access these doorbells, people can access
Yeah.
a ton of your personal home data, the layout of your house, right? If you have
Yeah.
a Roomba, like a robotic vacuum that has your home layout. And so I started thinking like, yo, like it would just for me as a consumer, I would pay to be able to monitor my devices. And even then you still don't know. But the fact that I have all these devices connected to my internet and anybody can
Yeah.
even monitor my stuff without me knowing, I don't know. That
Mhm.
makes me really unsettled.
Man, man, yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. I mean, so I've thought, I'll be honest. One thing I have, I like the cameras too, stuff like that. Um, and I think about stuff like that too, to the point where like, I hope one day that I either have safe has come up with something, or I make my own private system, that in which case it's like local.
Yeah.
Because I think the convenience of like, yeah, just buying a Nest and all like not a Nest, whatever it is now, the Nest Cam.
Yeah.
Because the convenience of doing that and hooking up to your Google account, all that, that's all dope. But nah, I can go left really bad easily. And one thing I would recommend everybody do. I have not done this out everywhere yet, but I recommend everybody do that does do IoT, like that has a lot of Internet of Things devices from a security standpoint. Um, Especially if like um if you are in a relationship or you have family, creating a separate um email for everything for that house or for that
Hmm.
location. Because then, for example, if you
I'm very
um
curious.
yeah, yeah, because like for like why I say that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Yeah, well, one, so I got my phone. I got my I told the story not to, like maybe like 7 months ago or something along the lines of that. So when they broke into my car, really didn't have to try that hard because I just that night I just forgot to lock the doors. It happens sometimes, and it just so happened that night I also had just got a new phone, and my old phone, which at the time I wasn't considering the fact that like that it was unlocked because of the transfer that we did at the Apple store. Yeah, that it was a perfect storm for this person. They got access to my phone in a scenario where it's all connected to your personal accounts. Now that person could just literally just be watching your house. You know what I'm saying? Imagine like in this case, this person was easy for me to catch because I was seeing them, they feel like they hit the lottery, right? So they immediately started making moves, buying, in this case, buying Airbnbs, all these like, just things that let me know, okay, there's clearly an issue here. But had it been a more patient, bad actor, it could have been, bad. And so imagine if, you just have an unlocked, like someone gets access to one of your devices or has access to your device and your account gets stolen for whatever reason. Like for them, we're public CEOs, like we have information on LinkedIn, etc. It's not hard to find our emails and stuff. And so like you if you got compromised, then for example, the Nest Cam or the Ring thing that you set up is easy to tap into if somebody has already attacked your personal account. Whereas if you separate them, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different because now, for example, you could have an account called like my house in your zip code or something, and it's like just understood that that's like the account for security or whatever the case. And the password in that case, I would probably recommend it to be something that you can remember. You and the people who are a part of the household can remember, and that's the reason why, just defensive stuff. so that even if there was an attack on, for example, you, Brian, that doesn't mean that the other people in your house are now at risk because the people can see your cameras or see like what's going, like,
Mm.
all the stuff we don't want to happen. Or for example, like Alexa, there's certain things you can do. Like, yeah, you don't. It's you want to separate. You want to silo stuff.
Nah, that's very helpful. I appreciate you sharing that, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Fundraising season. I know. Look, it's like this. I wanted to. We were discussing whether or not we should go. This should be first or not. We ended up doing the Kai thing, which ended up being much longer than we probably all expected. But maybe I don't know what y'all. This is this topic about fundraising season. I wanted to bring up
What?
as
Yeah.
almost like
What does fundraising season even mean? Like, can
sure,
you make that make sense
sure.
to the folks?
For sure. I want people to look at that, like, similarly to how they look at, sports, and how sports have regular seasons, they have, playoff seasons, they have finals, and they have preseasons. They're all times of the year that that, and, or even schools are like that too. Like there's summertime when you can expect most people below a certain age are not going to, you know, be in school or whatever the case. But uh, fundraising season, the way it is, that's how I like people to see it. But I want to add a little bit. It is the times when founders have the best chances of setting up the most meetings, and this is like when we're speaking, I'm speaking to the venture back startup game in fundraising. You want to set up your process in a way where it accounts for fundraising season. So, for example, it's often said, don't start a fundraising process as in June or May. Like, and one of the reasons why is because, well, um, look, I don't know if you guys, I worked at an investment firm. Go to a VC firm. Look, you're gonna see regular people with family and everything, right? Like, look, people's kids are off. Like people want to take vacations, they
Hey,
want to do other
that's a
stuff.
really good point.
Yeah, like yeah. We as founders I might be a solo founder, or I might have another one founder, but we don't have like, and we might have kids or et cetera. But the point is that a lot of us are, especially young founders, are definitely could be susceptible to not considering these things.
I feel
And
like
so
most young founders too
mhm.
idolize venture capitalists. Like it's the pinnacle. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
Mm.
everybody wants to be a founder, get some money, then go be a venture capitalist. It's
yeah,
and I think kind of what comes with that is like it's the same effect when we talk about like a LeBron or Jay-Z. Like those are the levels people feel that they're in when you're a VC. Like what's after a VC for most people? And I think because of that, like we forget that they're human. They're human. Like when
yes,
you just called out
yes,
they have families.
yes, yes,
Like
yeah,
kids are out of school. Hell yeah. Cause think about it. You'd probably be taking some vacation time with your family.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly, exactly,
It's and
exactly.
so it's
Yes.
applying common sense.
Yes, and as simple as it is, it's missed a lot. I see it so many times where I say times. Another time, I'm gonna speak to the times that are not the best times, and then I'll talk about the good times. Um, Another time that's not good. Um, Holidays. So especially the ones that are Thanksgiving and Christmas around those times. Around that time, look, that is a terrible time to kick off a fundraiser process. But again, I've seen people, founders, early stage founders primarily, do this over and over again and fail every single time, even when they have been told not to do this. And again, like
Rodney.
like Brian said, go ahead.
Now I was gonna say, and Dre, feel free to jump in here. But what I was gonna say is I think adding why why
Sure.
it does not make sense
Sure.
to reach out and start your fundraising process around Christmas and Thanksgiving. Like when it
Yeah.
comes to the deal, getting the deal over the line, like
Yeah, for
why does
sure.
that matter?
Well, well, for for uh, for similar reasons to the first one, um, in the sense of like just thinking about how a VC's job is generally structured, or how a fund manager's job is generally structured. You know, and whether or not they have kids or not, this is also even one where you don't even have to have kids or not. Most of the time, like for example, if you've worked a corporate job, usually what normally happens around holiday time, people start planning these like not even vacations. They start planning, to see their families. They start doing all these creating like I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna fly here, or I'm gonna drive here, etc., or we're gonna meet here. People's minds are really captured, and then also they're captured with family, but also with Christmas, they're also captured financially with stuff. So oftentimes those are just slower times. Those are just slower times because just holiday times. People are focused on more what and I would say just more important things, family, and time spent with family and traveling to family if they need to, and bringing family together, etc. Their minds in other places, and then also kids are also off of school during that time, so people are often having to, many people you know, they rely on their kid going to school for 8 hours a day, so that changes the dynamics, etcetera, and oftentimes you'll just see that people would rather kind of, like, wind things down for the end of the new year and prepare for the new year. As opposed to trying to start a process at the end of the new year and trying to no, if to be honest, if you are preparing for a fundraise and you're on the edge of it getting close to being Thanksgiving, if you have the runway, which you should, or you have again, you have the leverage, which you should, you need to do all those things, which I can speak to at some point, but you would be better off waiting until after the new year, maybe a week or two into the new year, primarily because people are coming into the new year on offense. And we see that across the board. Like, look, like you'll see the gym is filled up, like people are coming into the new year on offense. And so you definitely want to take advantage of the fact that people are coming into the new year. And they should have gone through the Thanksgivings, the Hanukkahs, or the Christmas, or the New Year's Eve, the New Year's, etc. And you just so when it comes to fundraising as a founder, it's not that checks are not written during those down periods. I'm not saying that. It's not that checks are not written during the summer. It's just that if you are planning a fundraise and you're trying to prepare for one, it's in your best interest to do it during seasons where it is the hottest time, and people are active and they have less distractions and they can focus on work. You know, and that's just how you want. Like, it's just good for like the preparation part. Um, and this like so. I just wanted to give like that. So okay. So what are the good times?
I'm
Good times. Go ahead, Bradley. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I'm curious, Dre's perspective on that.
N Yeah, I think that generally that makes sense. I think myself, I typically just start to slow down around the holiday times. And I think the other thing too, though, is like even if you do find, I mean, it depends on how the fund is structured, but even if you do find a partner that, let's say they don't have a family, they aren't taking time off, most funds usually require more conversations from other partners before a check is written. Yeah, there are some funds, there are some partners who can
Yeah.
simply write a check without it, but most of the time, these are like partner conversations or at least team conversations that have to happen. So the other reason why you don't want to do it is because, again, even if you have one partner who's behind you, you don't want to kill that momentum because the rest of the team is out. Like if you got somebody who's really
Yes.
behind you, you kind of want to keep that momentum up when everybody's in because you got
Yes.
somebody who's actually rally behind you versus, the rest of the team is out except for this one partner. You still not gonna get
Yes.
the deal done, regardless of how bad that one partner probably wants to get it done. So that's yeah, I would just add that one thing, but generally, I think everything Rodney said is spot on to what I've seen as well.
Fantastic point, though. That's a fantastic point, though, because that's something that I definitely like.
Mm.
That's a fantastic point. Like, like, it's not just it's usually not just one partner with all the authority to that's why, like, they do the memos and stuff and, like, to the team, like, and like what Jay just said, like, that's just not advantageous for you. You want like, you just don't want to it's not advantageous for you. Now, what would be maybe advantageous would be to that those partners during those times that, maybe you say you're not raising, and maybe you have not like, you have those preliminary things, but just definitely not like crunch time type stuff. If you can avoid it, here's the thing though. Sometimes you have 2 months of runway. Hey, look, you have 2 months of runway and it's November. Hey, look, do what you have to do. I would have said, try not to get to that position though.
Let,
And
let me
it's
ask you
this,
this:
yeah,
That's real though.
if you thought
yeah,
about like I guess like founder survival kit lists,
sure.
right? Like
Hmm.
the checklist of things that like a founder needs for like the fundraising preparation. And obviously
Hmm.
this varies by stage. I
Sure,
won't say obviously because if you never raise money, you
sure,
don't know. You may not know that. But it
sure.
definitely
Yeah.
varies by stage in terms of like what preparation may look like. Because I bet we both have been at companies that raise like Series C, D, and that's a whole different process than the
Hmm.
seed and the A and the
Yeah,
earlier stages.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
from an early stage perspective, what would you say are like the items or the checklist items on that preparation list? So obviously starting with
Mhm.
first of all, just make sure you're in the right season. That's like check mark number one.
Yeah,
You're in the right season. It's a
100%.
non-starter. What would you
Yes.
say are like the next set of things on that list of checks that need to be checked off? And Brylan, feel free to like collaborate too. I'm curious to get both of your thoughts on this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Bradley,
bro.
go ahead if you wanna go first. It's up to you. Yeah.
Now you go ahead. Sorry, bro.
Okay, okay. Well, man, it's exhausting. It's a lot. I feel like it could be a lot. So I'm trying to condense it down, but if I can't, then I might just do a little ramble here, guys. So essentially, one, lead time. You want lead time before you execute a fundraise. And what I mean by that, and why do I say that? Just to be clear, executing a fundraise from my perspective is during this period of time, which generally speaking, it could be as short as maybe, you know, um, 8 weeks, but it could be up to, 6 months. But the point is that there's a time and period where you are, let's say I would recommend the process to be though, let's say 8 to like 12 weeks. So basically 2 to 3 months. A process in which case you have condensed a lot of meetings, booked a lot of meetings with investors that align with the check size that you want, the stages you're in, and the amount of money you're raising, etc. And so let me rewind back. So lead time, but also that you need to have a list or a spreadsheet, and you can break it like it depends on how people want to look at this, but um, I would say I would do 2 buckets. You could put more than 2 buckets if you want. It could be three, but I'll just say 2 buckets. There are You want leads, right? And essentially people that like the message that you want to talk to, but also like you want to know that the messages that are on your list that are people that you can reach. One of the best ways to find out that you can reach people is doing a bottoms up approach where you can go on LinkedIn and type in, for example, if you're doing early stage, let's just talk about pre-seed. You might type in, and let's say you're doing pre-seed, doing $500,000 at some type of valuation. Right now, valuations are kind of low, so let's just say, between 4 to 6, 7 million, or something like that. 500,000, whatever. I would say go to LinkedIn and type in angel, and then in all caps type in or, and then type in pre-seed, right? And then uh, tap people, and then on the connections part, tap second degree. What that does is it gives you a large list of people who are uh, exactly who you're looking for that you can get an intro to. You might be able to get an intro to, right? And you could drill it down on filters. Typically speaking, I think it's best to start with your local area, especially if you're in California. I would say just filter it to California. Maybe you can expand that list if you want to. You don't have to but I would drill it down. And you could go through each one of these pages, but there's a fast way to do this. You can use a tool called Phantom Buster. Take that query and put it into Phantom Buster. It will give you an Excel spreadsheet. Instead of having to go through 10 pages like one page by page, it'll give you a Excel spreadsheet of, for example, let's say 1,000 of those people. These are people that you have mutual connections with. They're secondary connections, right? So now your job is to, one, see if they fit with what you're raising, right? So if you're raising $500,000, then you're going to typically want to do checks probably between 50 and 250. Why is that? Just because you just that's either 10 50K checks or 250 checks or a combination of or whatever. It just makes the most sense. Don't go to a seed fund that is $1 million, and then they're just gonna tell you you're too early. It's literally a waste of your time. You're gonna be too early, and if their minimum check sizes are $1 million and you are doing 500,000, it doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. And so you want to have an idea of what your check sizes you want. Now, mind you, I'm not saying you can't take a $10,000 check, $25,000 check, or whatever. But I think when you build this list, you want to build because you have a lot of people you can go through. For each person, go to their LinkedIn, look at your mutual connections, and then from there, see if you have any mutual connections. You should, because you did if you did the search right. But sometimes those mutual connections are not always strong. Sometimes not always strong. And so I would say that those are in a separate bucket. Those are in a separate bucket. The ones that where you either have let's say you have like 2 connections, but like you don't know any of them. And there'll be people though, you'll have 5 connections and maybe 2 people there that might be open to an intro. Those are separate buckets. So the bucket where have more confidence in the potential warm intro, I would say you want to have, I would just say easy one is just do 100. And 100 investors where that you have mutual connections that you feel like well enough to ask for an intro. Like,
But
don't try. I mean, you
you know
can't
how
go.
crazy that sounds though? Like
Mhm.
you need
In what way? In
100.
what way? In,
A
100.
100.
Yeah, yeah. It's a
To
well. That's why.
most
Well,
people
and that's why.
who ain't
Mhm,
fundraised, they don't know that
mhm.
that's what it takes. That's what
Right,
is
right.
required.
Absolutely. It's not it's like almost non-negotiable. Especially right now in the current market that we're in right now, the competition is much, much heavier. And it's what my investors describe as an investor's market. They keep reminding me that. Now, and I've seen that. And we can attest to certain deals and flat rounds and down rounds or whatever. Like it's an investor's market right now. So the amount of investors, I say the 100 is an easy number in my head. You minimum, I would say 50, where you feel like you can get like an intro to, you know, um, but 100 is a good solid number where those are now, mind you, that might be different than a number of whether you have like weak connections. You might have another bucket where it's like there are people you want to get to, but the people that you're connected with on LinkedIn, they might just be superficial. Maybe somebody just added you on LinkedIn or whatever. You're like, and not really people and so that's a separate bucket. But for the bucket where you have more confidence in, I think you want to have 50 to 100. And I would say 100 is the best bet if you want to increase the chances. That's why I say lead time. Lead time gives you leverage because if you are in a position where you need capital, you have less lead time. Therefore, you might not be able to afford to do the research it takes to build up a list of 100. Um, so like those all factor in. Obviously, if you only got 2 months of funding or 3 months of funding left, then you may not have the time to research 100 investors. And by the way, with these tools, this stuff should take maybe 10 to 20 hours total, total. That's not that much. It's a lot, but it's not as much as most adults are working about 40 hours a week. So if you are doing a startup and especially if you're full time, you can get that 10 to 20 hours in even in just like a month or 2 months. So lead time ideally would be like maybe like 2 months or whatever. Now, mind you, now that you have this list of strong connections, I would say the next thing is actually determining when you're going to execute your fundraising. Now, just have that date in mind. It could be as simple as starting right after Labor Day or a week after Labor Day and whatever. It could be as that simple. But the point is that you need to have a date in mind for yourself. But then also, now that you have this list of strong connections, or hopefully strong, you can start testing the waters a little bit and say, and you can explicitly ask people and say, hey, look, I'm getting ready to do X, Y, and Z, and obviously it's important. We don't have the time today, but it's important that um, you frame it in such a way where you let the other person know that you are going to take care of most of the work that it requires to make this intro. We're just asking to see like if by this time, like, would you be like open? And so then in that case, now you're taking that 100 I just told you about, and then kind of, you know, taking it to reality and seeing how true, how strong these connections may be. And maybe that list goes down a little bit. Who knows? It just depends. But you get to do a little bit of that before the start of the fundraise. And then when it comes time to do the fundraise a few days before it, you can go back to all those people that you asked. Hopefully, most of them said yes. If not, then cool. But like to the ones that said they could, just like, hey, da, 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 it's about time that we're doing it. If you can get it, this intro, and it should be like a blurb. And again, these details will have to be dove into probably in a future podcast, but you can get those details, um, affordable, like affordable bio or whatever, make it easy for them, make it as easy as possible. And there's things like mail merch and whatnot. Again, those are things can be spoken at length in another segment, but um, where you can automate some of this stuff too. And then now you're should be getting intros and everything almost in a very pragmatic, strategic way. And so and give people time to like, to give you those intro. Like it should be done in a way where it's like people are not like, okay, oh, I'm at the fundraise tomorrow. Keep me that intro. Like it should be, you should factor in that it could be some time for people to do it. And also you should factor in the fact that some people might not come through on a commitment as well. Factor all that in. Basically, this is a game of preparation. It's a game of preparation. And if you want to build, and also it's a game of leverage too. So that's like just something I wanted to speak to, as far as like that I said a lot, and I feel like I could say more, but I want to give space to other people to say, like, because there's a checklist, but it's like there's so many things. It's a lot of detail. Like Riley, you made
Mhm.
a good point. It sounds crazy. It does sound crazy. It is crazy. It's crazy what you have to do.
Yeah,
It is.
and so for me, I think one of the key things that has to be answered when it comes to raising venture capital is the realistic question of, are you ready for it? And so I'm specifically talking to folks that haven't raised venture capital. I'll get to folks that have raised an
Yeah.
initial round and are trying to raise a subsequent round. But for folks that have not raised venture capital, we have to be honest in the world that we live in now, where money is not as abundant as it was before and freely just being handed out, that you have to come with some type of proof. Like we're getting back to the basics where this is fundamentally a game of private equity. And money is to be made on the money that has quote unquote been lent. And so like because that's the case, I think investors are a lot more cognizant of what is being paid for in exchange for the risk they're taking on. And I feel like for founders, one of the biggest things that you can have when it comes to fundraising is the perspective that you're presenting your story in a way in which you tell the story of how you de-risk the business. And you
Yeah.
prove that through the model that is starting to form around your business. And I think when you do that, that leads to confidence. Like
Yes.
that's when investors start to feel confidence. And I think if you do that with enough people, that's how you get momentum. But if you're not looking at, like, if you're not knowing your customer and being an investor and understanding that,
Mm.
that's how they looking at your business. Where the
Yes.
risk at? Nah, that's too much risk for this price. Like,
Mm. That as you talking, not to interrupt you, Brian, but as you're talking,
yeah.
I quickly got reminded of. I just heard Mark Andreessen. He was doing a podcast, and I can't remember whose podcast he was on because he's been on a whole little media circuit lately. But he was on a podcast and he was talking about this concept that he learned really early on in venture. And it's kind of like they call like the onion effect, right? This is kind of like how investors in Silicon Valley, traditional old school Silicon Valley kind of think about businesses, which is in a similar framework to you just said, Brian, which is if you think about an onion, how it has layers, think about those layers as layers of risk for a startup. So the initial risk for any startup is team risk, right? Which is the team even able to even do anything together? Are they even capable together? That's what most VCs look at first. They're going to look at the team risk, right? And then there's product risk, right? Has the team actually built a product? Have they actually built something that people really want, right? Right. And then there's market risk, right? Have they actually validated like that, the market is accepting and willing and all this other stuff, right? And then there's business model risk. There's all these different layers of risk that surround a new startup. And really the job of an early stage founder is to peel back those layers as much as possible. And to what
100%.
Brylan said is like de-risk it. And so I think that's spot on. It really goes exactly to what Mark Andreessen, one of the greatest investors of our time at least, said is exactly how they think about deals. And so, going back to the analogy that Rodney gave, it's like if you think about things like a game, they're giving you the game. They're literally telling you what the playbook is. And so as a founder, you can reverse engineer that and think about, how do I tell this story or how do I present ourselves in a way where those things are de-risked. And then not only just tell it, it's one thing to tell it, but then again, you got to couple that with action and actually go and do
Yes.
these things, because the last thing
Yeah.
you want is to just raise capital for the sake of raising capital. And then you start to get
Yes.
diluted, right? Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes with that. And we can talk about that. So it's not just about that.
This is the
Yes.
thing. Raising
Both
capital
great to
is
me.
not the
Yeah.
trophy. Like, raising capital is
No.
not the trophy. Having
Yeah.
having a great business is. And like, to have a great business, it's it's not essentially complicated to like understand what a great business is. Like, you make more money than you spend. Like, it's very simple, but the journey to getting there and to a place where it's sustainable, and if you're playing the VC game, it's at a certain, level. Like,
Yeah.
that takes a lot of skill. And I feel like,
Yes.
for a founder, like, yeah, just really leaning into those
Yeah.
moments where you can get better.
I think you too brought like up something like one of the most important parts that I forgot was like just story. Um. And
Bro, you the one
also
who put me on to that whole concept.
yeah, and it could be because I'm talking to you guys, and I always say it, and we're on mic, and forgot to mention it, but yeah, like the story, like you guys both brought it up, so I didn't have to. Luckily, but yeah, no, and also too, like Dre said, the playbook is out there and you can reverse engineer it. And if you are a founder, it's in your best interest to be honest with yourself when you're reverse engineering. And then also I'm thinking about what Brian said about de-risking, because
Let me
don't
let,
try
let, let
to
me let me say this
don't
piece
try to
for you.
real quick, don't try to force a de-risk situation. Basically meaning that
Mm.
don't try to create a story that seems like it's de-risked when it's really not, and try to sell that. Actually see, like, through, like, if you do
Mm.
what Dre and Brian are talking about, the story it should come about, but at a certain point, it should be clear to you whether or not you've actually de-risked it or not, or if it's actually plausible. And you may find out maybe there's a better idea or something else I should be focused on, but definitely don't try to mold the story in ways that are not honest to the business concept that you're trying to put out there, because they'll see through that and it'll mess you up. Um, uh, yeah. But yeah, go ahead, Brown.
Nah, I was just gonna say, bro, that's that's a really good point.
Yeah. But yeah, so but we have plans, just to let our audience know, we have plans to like talk about fundraising, um, probably many times. It's just it's one of the main things. It's
Yeah.
top. I would say it's number one thing that founders talk about and investors, but it's top three. No matter what time period we're in.
I,
Like, how do
so
I fund my business
so I did want to say
with
this because
venture?
I want folks to be extremely practical in terms of how you can approach this. So, like I said, for the folk, it's totally different if you're in a position of you have not fundraised before, like versus
Yeah,
if you're in a position where you have fundraised. Totally different. So I'm speaking to the folks that have not fundraised before. And for y'all folks, if you are in your job and your project or business that you are getting up has not gotten off the ground yet, there is no reason to quit your job. You playing the wrong game. You need some good defense to set up your offense. And this is going to protect you. This is going to protect you because if you can figure out how to make some shit shake under these constraints, like that's pretty impressive. And if I'm going to be honest, after seeing enough things early on, there is not much like we overemphasize how much time needs to go into something. Like, especially even if you have not fundraised, why are you rushing? Like
yeah,
you still control the expectations. And so I think that's very important because what
yes,
I would be
yes.
spending my time focusing on is building relationships with people who
Oh,
are
without a doubt.
associates at these venture firms. So I got my job
Yeah,
protecting me, still bringing in the dough. I'm building my
yeah,
stuff, getting it off the ground, testing this stuff, seeing if I can catch a little fanfare or make a deal shake. But at the same time, I'm starting to build these relationships with these associates. I'm not saying I'm associates. Their job is literally to bring new deals to the table, help them do
Yeah.
their job better.
and they also grow. Like, it was somebody who's an associate, like, if you're taking the strategy that Brian's talking about, which is a long-term relationship strategy, associates are not associates forever. They turn into regular partners, general partners, and sometimes the emerging fund managers. And so that is an amazing strategy. You'll often see an associate, and they may not even be at the you might start building that relationship, and then when you look up to fundraise, they're at a larger funds like
Mm.
Sequoia or A16Z, and I've seen that happen as well. And so, yeah,
Hey man,
spot
we was
on,
just talking about
100%.
homie a few episodes ago. Trayon,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
he over at
yeah.
Adresa now, out of nowhere.
That's wow, that's crazy. Congratulations to him. They've gotta catch up to.
That's wild, man.
That is wild.
That's dope,
And that's
brother.
what's like, yeah, like, and I do see why, like, people say maybe in the midst of a fundraise, don't focus on associates, but Brian's speaking to something else. He's speaking to, if you are in a different position right now, for example, like Brian said, you are, this is not the first time raising. Also, you might have a full-time job. You make it take a long, like, why are you in a rush? That's the perfect way to think about it. That is a point of leverage. I can tell you now, one of the biggest things that I often see is the fact that people are in a rush is one of the weakest things of their strategy. Them being in a rush. Not being in a rush is leverage. Now, and that's why also too, runaway and all that stuff comes into play. If you are currently, like, obviously, like,
Mm.
maybe, like, pre-seed, seed, but the best position to be in when you're doing a fundraiser is no rush. That's the best position to be in.
Mhm.
Um, you know,
Mhm.
uh, cause yeah, it's just the best position to be in. Now, when you're in a rush, you might be able to close it, but man, look, it's gonna be harder. It's gonna be harder for you.
Hmm.
It's going to be harder for you. You're not gonna be as prepared, and people will feel that energy. Some people will take it as passion. Other people will be like, you might be scatterbrained, anxious, etc. Like, it will be difficult to act calm and cool and collected if you only got a few weeks. Like, it'll just be hard. So try not to, you know, yeah, try to look at things from a no rush perspective.
I I was say last thing I would add, if you have not raised, reconsider on if that's even the path you want to go down.
100%.
Because,
Yeah.
once you go down that fundraise and you take on the early stage capital, you will need to raise money again, most likely. So you got to ask yourself whether or not you want to be on the hamster wheel, because that's
Yeah.
essentially what you about to jump on. And so
Yeah.
I just want to make that very clear. 'Cause I hear so much. I hear so much from people that's never raised capital. Like they
Yeah.
glorify it and I understand why. Like I read TechCrunch every day too. You know what I'm saying? So I get it. I get what it appears like. But running a venture backed startup, let's be honest, is difficult. It is
It's
very
difficult.
difficult. And it's difficult. And I would even say that the way the traditional VC is set up today makes it difficult, because you have
Yeah.
people that are willing to give you millions of dollars in cash before you've proven out those risk factors that we talked about. So think about that.
Yeah.
You have somebody who's willing to take a bet before you've proven out market risk, before you maybe have proven out product risk, before you've proven out some of these other elements that are risks to building a real business. And so that alone makes the job incredibly complicated, and cash doesn't solve everything. And
Oh,
so
no, it don't.
while, raising capital is great, obviously I've done it. I'm continuing to do it. I've invested in LPs and I'm an LP in several funds. I see it from multiple angles, but I'm just saying that it's not everything that it seems to be. And there are more
Yes.
paths to do it. And there's more ways
Yes.
to do it where you have way more leverage, and you can still take outside capital, but it's all about how you do it. And so I just think like you got to consider that, because once you take somebody's money, it's really, really hard to unwind
Yeah.
that.
Facts.
Yeah. Highly. Yeah. Like, I guess we can end on that good note from Dre. Like I said, I take Dre's, what Dre's saying very serious. I also am fully behind that message. I can tell you that, do not do this thinking that you're just gonna because now like this is a serious commitment. And yeah, like it requires a certain amount of work to do well. And if you care about,
Facts.
doing good work and also your reputation, etc. But also, for example, your specific business, which Dre is also making sure that that the audience is challenging themselves to really make sure that the business that they are in fits the venture, and don't get attracted to it because of it's definitely not what it seems. And I can tell you all this. I don't care what, like once you start, like as Dre said, it is a hamster wheel because look, founders can all attest to this. Look, you raise, let's say you're raising $200,000. You raise that, all you can think about is that you're cool for like a week, and then before you know it, all you think about is okay, what do I need for the next for the next? So you can't even you can't even it's no joke. Your brain is on. You're locked in. Like you can't not think about that next hoop. And it's like you did so much just to get that one. So, and you already know it's gonna be harder too. It's not gonna be as easy as the last one. So your mind is under that this whole time. So just keep that in mind. Not to, say don't do it, just understand and do more research also beyond this podcast. Trust that.
Play
Because
smart.
there are,
Play
like Dre said,
smart.
there's a lot of nuances to this. Lots of it.
Facts. Y'all want to wrap it up on that one?
Yeah.
Let's close it.
Let's do it.
One.